All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome all back to the Real Precious Network, where we're at the Adoptee Foster Show on another Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back. I feel like we were just here, but we weren't. How are you? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Cool
Um,
down a little bit.
thank the Lord. Okay. These hundreds and plus degree weather has it's draining. I was talking to my boss between yesterday and today, and we
hmm
just kept the conversation going, like how draining the weekend was just from the heat alone, on top of everything that was going on and events and traveling and things like that. It just was draining.
You just want to like do whatever you do and then run back in the house, get under the air.
Okay. And then speaking of the air, my air condition kicked out. It made a horrible, pitiful sound when it went
Oh
out.
no.
So yeah, like I said, I could complain, but tis is life. Tis is life. It must go on. The show must go on. And so I'm still kind of relishing in our interview that we had with Ronnie from last week from the Fire
hmm
Pit Conversations. He was such a good guest, part of the adoptee community. And we had a great time. And you guys, if you haven't watched it, definitely go back to our last week's episode. And we featured Ronnie from the Fire Pit Conversations. Go ahead and follow them over there. Adoptee community where they advocate for adoptees. Very great conversation perspective. They have a podcast doing good things over there. So definitely check them out. But he was a good time. We're going to have to get him and his brother on the panel because
hmm
last Tuesday of this month, we're going to have another panel already lining up some guests,
All right.
lining up some guests. There's going to be some things in the future that we're planning out now. So I'm excited about everything that's going on, and it's just going to continue to flourish. We're laying the groundwork, and it's just going to continue to flourish, and I'm here for it. I am here for it. I am here for it. Guys, if you're watching, definitely hit the like button, share the live, and subscribe to the channel so you know when we're going live. Every time we go live, you'll get a notification letting you know we are on the air. Now, tonight, if you haven't read the title of tonight's show, it is Another Baby, Another Adoption, What Should Be Done? And we have three videos for you tonight. The first one is a little bit unrelated to the topic, it's more of like a reactionary icebreaker, things what we have talked about before. But I just wanted to play this video because, again, when you're in adoption and you don't know the truth and you're surrounded by truth, but you're unaware of it, it is just a surprising revelation when you find out that the people around you are your people and you don't even know it. And so
hmm
that's going to be the first video. And then the next two videos after that is going to be getting into our topic. Because myself, I'm the oldest of seven, which means my mother got pregnant with me. She had me, then she had my brother, and then she had my sister, and another sister, and then like she just kept having children. And so I saw this video actually come up on TikTok, and I thought it would be a good topic for us to discuss because this is a very huge topic within the adoption community of biological parents, biological mothers having multiple children and giving multiple children up for adoption. And so we're just going to go into conversation about that and kind of go over some key points that come to mind when you think of this and some things that probably should change. And again, we're setting this groundwork from having these conversations. And so, you know, like I said, there's some things coming in the future, and hopefully, we are a part of change in the adoptee community, not here just on YouTube, but at a MAGA level where it's more so laws are being passed and certain things are being looked at because adoptees are speaking up and speaking out about it. So we're going to get into the first video, guys. Again, hit the like button. If you have not hit that like button, hit the like button. If you're inside of the live chat, just go outside of the live chat and you'll see the thumbs up. You can give it a thumbs down if you want. Hey, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to persuade you. I'm just here to advocate for adoptees and give you the information that you probably don't know or you probably do know. All right, so we're going to get into this first video, and it is of a woman who, just like Ronnie from last week, is a late. She's learning that she's adopted in a later phase of her life, and this is how she finds out.
You gotta watch this one.
This story is crazy. So I grew up the only child, my mom, dad, and me. And since I was younger, I used to be like, man, I wish I had sisters and brothers and things like that. As I got older, I used to always wish I had nieces and nephews and things like that. I wanted to be an auntie, and things like that. And so 2014, my mom passed. 2020, my daddy passed. And a couple of years, fast forward a couple of years later, I was trying to renovate a house. So my friend turned me on to this contractor she knew. This contractor knew someone that I knew and my parents knew from a long time ago. And the contractor tells the person like, hey, that I know him. He was like, yeah, I know her. Tell her to give me a call. So I call him and we get to chit chatting. And while we're chit chatting on the phone, he says, I remember, I'm sorry, he says, your mother and daddy love you. Your mama and daddy love you. Don't let no one tell you any different. I remember when they first adopted you. What?
Dun, dun,
Adopted, mind
dun.
you, I am 34 years old now.
34 years old. This video is pretty long, so we're going to stop it a couple times. So she grew up the only child, wishing she had siblings, and then both of her parents passed away. And she's trying to do some business with the house, renovate a house, and the contractor. The contractor, our lives are fragments, like they're fragmented, right? And so we always say it's like a puzzle piece. Well, the contractor in this space and this in this video is one of those pieces because he said your parents loved you. I remember when they adopted you. So this is that's why you got to tell them young, tell them early, tell them often.
I did not know I was adopted. I thought my life was my life. Like, I thought that was my biological mom and daddy. I was the only child. My family was my biological family. Like, what you mean adopted? Like, huh? No one told me. They took it to their grave. Even after they took it to their grave, nobody in the family said anything. Everybody just continued on like normal. Now, don't get it twisted. Now, my mom and daddy was they were some good people. They loved me. They loved me. So I don't regret them being my mom and daddy. But of course, it's crazy. This is 34 years. My life just changed in 34 years. So I reach out to people or whatever, asking them like, why you didn't tell me I was adopted? I reach out to my family. So why you didn't tell me I was adopted? No one told me. I'm asking them, do they know my mama and daddy and things like that? Well, who my biological mama and daddy is. And they're like, no, we don't know. And
Now, do you think if they didn't tell her she was adopted, but they did know who her biological family was, do you think that they would have told her that?
Absolutely not.
Like everybody, it seemed like, was going to take it to their grave. And so, her asking around is now opening that can of worms of who's going to tell her. I'm not going to tell her. Are you going to tell her? Are you going to tell her? I ain't going to tell her. She ain't going to hear it from me. So when she says she's asking around and nobody knows, I'm wondering if that's even the truth because they all knew that she was adopted.
Yeah, I mean, and even I think I had mentioned to you earlier in the text that DMC from Run DMC, he didn't find out until he was in his mid 30s that he was adopted
Mm,
because he was going through a bout of depression and he was trying to figure out, like, you know, what the family history was. But yeah, I don't think they would have told her, just like in my situation, my parents or my mother basically was telling people that I had passed away when I was a kid. So
mm.
um, it's a lie that they're gonna, you know, hold on to until, you know, but
Till.
yeah, it's one thing to actually be told by your parents that you're adopted, but for somebody else to tell you, that's even a lower blow. Like your parents, her parents didn't even have the guts to say, "Hey, you know, we adopted you," at whatever the story was, right?
Right.
And you know, we know that that will bring additional questions and you know wonderings and things like that. But I think that she deserves to know because now I really believe this. When you get older, it's really tougher
Yeah.
to find those people in your life
That's
that were supposed to be like, in your life. And we all don't get to meet our parents. We don't all get to meet our siblings, you
yeah.
know. And I hope that I don't know where she is like within that journey of finding her family, but um I'm sure she wants to know, um being told by somebody else that, your parents really loved you, but that but you were adopted. And she's like, "What?" That probably stopped her in her tracks. Like, what
Because
do you mean I'm adopted?
right, because he knew her parents, but he
Hmm.
didn't necessarily know her, which means
Right.
he knew her business. Like, you know what I mean? You know how you'd be like, how you know where you know me from? Like, how you know my business? And so yes, it had to be one of those things where it was just like, you say what now, huh? What?
Run that by me again.
What? I was a huh? Adopted who? Yeah, it had to be a shocker, especially because her adoptive parents are gone.
Yeah.
However, we have had adoptees on the show that have said, I, I I haven't even expressed to them how I feel about being adopted, and so I don't want to say that it's better off that they're gone and she has to deal with this because but I also don't want to say they cowered out of telling her because a lot of adoptive parents struggle with that, and that's why we have these conversations because that needs to be something of old. It needs to be a new wave and a fresh breath of air on the adoptee community because for so long you're bound by secrecy, you're bound by shame, you're bound by what other people think, yet you're doing a very public thing when you adopt a child into your family. Others are going to know, you know and to be so ignorant to think that that's going to stay in that small community forever is unrealistic. To think that
Hmm.
the child is not going to get older and not question things is unrealistic. To think that even adopting a baby and the baby not knowing at some point, even within themselves, because the body keeps score, that they don't belong is unrealistic if you're not educated in the adoptee community and the primal wound and the psychological and emotional effects that it has on our body and our nervous system. So, you know,
And then somebody always blurts it out. Like in my situation, my mom was just wasted and blurted it out.
because the truth of what did I say? What a what mind tells what is it?
An
What
alcoholic mind tells the truth.
is that? What it is? That's what
Hmm.
they say. Something like that, right? It,
Hmm.
it tells the truth, and adoption isn't truly successful, in my opinion, if you're not telling the truth.
Hmm. And
It's
like for that person to actually, that's to me, if I knew that somebody was adopted and they didn't know, that's not my place to tell them. Like that's their parents' place.
Mhm.
That's not for me to blurb out. Oh, hey, by the way, you're adopted.
Yeah, because it could be like a, a backhanded compliment in a sense. Like,
Hmm.
oh, your parent, they loved you so much. They loved you. I remember when they adopted you, and you'd be like, wait, hold on. If they love me so much, why did they tell me? You're left with all of these questions that can't be answered by the prime subject. So you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, now she can't
not
even ask.
to
Like,
give you any answers.
yeah, like
Well,
even if they had paperwork, she can't even get that because she don't know where they put it, or you know, um, maybe they put it in a safety deposit box or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to hear somebody say that you're adopted and it's not from the people that actually adopted you.
no one in the family revealed it. And so again, they were gonna take it to their grave.
Hmm.
Um oh, I wish someone would drunk call me. Coach Chelsea said there's an episode of Friends where Chandler unknowingly blurted out to a kid he was adopted, assuming the parents already told him. Mm, this for me and you. Greetings. Thank you so much for being here. You guys definitely hit that like button if you have not. Thank you so much for joining, and keep commenting and engaging in the chat, because we're going to have 2 more videos that come up where I'm sure you're going to have some feedback on. But we're going to keep going on with this video because it ain't over, child. It ain't over.
So I reach out to DFAX. DFAX gives me a number. I go to the local DFAX office. They give me a number to reach out to, and it's this agency that helps families reconnect that been adopted. And so I reach out, I fill out the paperwork, fast forward 3 months later. The lady calls me on the phone and said, hey, I just got off the phone with your biological mother. She's so excited. Let me give you a little background. She has 3 girls, 1 boy. She said when she was younger, she used to get a little
Keep that in mind. She has 3 girls, 1 boy.
trouble, but she since then changed her life around, became a pastor. I can tell you her first name. I can't tell you her last name until she signed the consent papers. I'm gonna say Jay because that's the first initial of her name. Her name is Jay. She also asks, can you send me a picture of you so I can send to her? And we chit chat some more, and that's it. And so after we hang up the phone, I call the daycare lady. My kids go to this daycare. They've been going to this daycare for the last 5, 6 years.
5, 6 years her kids been going to this daycare.
And me and the daycare lady, we cool. And so I call her and I'm like, hey, I just got off the phone with the adoption people. They said they talked to my biological mother. They said she got 3 girls, 1 boy. Don't you got 3 girls, 1 boy? She said, yep. I said they said that she used to get in trouble back in the day, and then she since became a pastor. I said, you told me the same story. You used to get in trouble back in the day. You became a pastor. She said, yep. And so I said, and they said her name is such and such. She got the same name as you.
Wow.
She said, Caroline, it's real. So I'm like, what you mean it's real? I know it's real. I know I'm adopted. No, Caroline, is real. I'm still green. What you mean is real? I know it's real. Caroline, is real. I just called to tell you what happened. I know it's real. She says, Caroline, I'm your mother.
What?
What?
Yo, that's crazy.
Hey, yo.
Crazy. She been having her grandbabies all this time, just rocking them to sleep. Isn't that crazy? I it I can never get tired of greetings, the greetings. I didn't even know I still had.
It was so into the story.
But I can never get tired of hearing adoption stories. I really can't. It still ain't over, but I can never get tired of it because while we always say, I think we say it every single show, our stories are similar, but they are very different.
Hmm.
Very different, because you have people who struggle to find their families. That's one topic you wanted to, talk about, struggling to find their biological families and biological connections. And here she go paying the for the kids to go to the daycare, and her mama is the person running the daycare. Like it's just
Stuff you can't make up.
make right. You can't make it up. You can't. There's no one who is humanly possible to write this out the way that it goes. Like, you know what I mean? There's no one who can orchestrate it. That's why I believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our stories, because of every adoption story that I hear, whether good or bad, because I think that in adoption, we have so much duality that we have no choice but to take the good with the bad. I mean, that's what it is with us. And so even in the stories where we feel like, oh, that's not such a good adoption story, we still, I believe most adoptees do rise from the ashes. We do see the good in our stories. Do we wish that there was more advocacy? Do we wish that more people spoke out about it? Yes, so all of that. But at the end of the day, we're able to look back and say, we're fine, we made it, we're able to talk about our stories and help those who can't find their voice talk about their stories, who aren't knowledgeable, or even adoptive parents who don't really hear, adoptee stories and don't really submerge themselves into the community enough to hear what could be on their adoptee's mind. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I hear these stories, it's amazing to me because they're all unique in their own way. Like I sometimes I'm just so speechless. Like I just don't even know what to say next, because I'm just like, okay, let me process this. Like, you lived it, but I got to process what I'm hearing. And when I tell people my story, we have to explain and say, no, not biological, but adoptive. So, people get confused hearing our stories, but when you hear other people's stories, like, you have to sit and process and say, this woman is saying it's true, Caroline. I'm your
Mm-hmm.
it is
That's like a Lifetime movie or something. Like
it
that's just
is
you can't script these things to the way that they play out. From start to finish. From your childhood, the things you experience. How you were told. And I like that she jumped right in. And she wanted to know. She didn't wait. And I think that the older that we get, the harder it is to actually locate people because they could have passed away and you wouldn't know. And then like it was the one episode, I don't know if you've seen it. It was on Relative Race where the guy, he had found out his mother had passed,
mhm,
and he was on the red team. I think it was season 5 or season 6,
mhm,
and he was so, he wanted to know why so bad from his mother,
mhm,
and he was so emotional, you know, and luckily, he had his wife there with him, and it's not like she could do anything, right? But just someone being there for you and being that emotional crutch that you need at that time, and she did everything she could, in that time where he needed her.
right.
And you know, that's really all you're looking for is answers, and sometimes you're not going to get the answers that you need. Um, but I'm glad that she jumped right on it and was like, I want to know, I want to find out, and I want to learn what my story is.
It takes bravery, right? I
Hmm.
was looking at We had Franklin on the show, and he posted something about he's on his journey of finding his biological father. And he posted something and he goes, I know so many things about him, and there's so many things that I know that is telling me that I shouldn't meet him. But he's feeling like I still need to be true to myself to at least say that I tried to do it. And I think that that takes bravery, even yourself, trying to find people in your family. It takes bravery. I'm in sales. It's almost like sales. It's like you knocking on somebody's door and you're telling
Mhm.
them, you don't have a product, you are the product. Like I am a
Right.
product of your family. And they can either accept you or they can close the door in your face or they can say I don't know what you're talking about or we thought you passed away years ago, like you know what I mean. It could be so many things, but it takes
Mhm.
actual bravery to go out there to know for yourself. And I think that adoptees above amongst a lot of things, we want to know things for ourselves because for so long we did not have a say in the matter. So if we're gonna have a say in the matter and we're gonna do this thing, then we're gonna do this thing. Like you
Mhm.
know what I mean? What good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever the case may be. But it's really an act of bravery because so many people, like you said, you get older in age, you get set in your ways. People are not living long as you would want them to, especially in this given situation. But you
Mhm.
don't have any control over those things. And so if you do know, then yes, I would say if you have the emotional capacity to it is a journey. We always say go in with no expectation, low expectations, no expectations.
Mhm.
We say go in making sure that you're right and you've done the work within yourself and you have emotional awareness that things may not turn out the way that you would want them to, or that fairy tale ending that sometimes they throw on adoption. Go in there knowing that you have done everything for yourself to protect yourself and protect your peace. Have the support, if you have support around you supporting you in doing this, but do it, because there's going to come a time, there's going to become a day where you may have your own children, and what do you tell them? What I don't, I know that I'm adopted, but I have no answers. It's going to make, we as beings are curious beings. We're curious. We just are. There are some people that'll act on it, and there are some people that'll just sit on the curb like, I guess maybe one day, and I'm most adoptees are not the ones sitting on the curb, and even if you are, you're still having the thoughts, period.
Yeah, those and I liked how she was telling the story in that video. She was giving context and she was, basically saying, basically after all of that, she now she could have been upset and she could have I mean she might have been upset for a minute, I don't know, but just based off the video, she sounded like she was, even though she got some news that wasn't, comforting to her, she still was like, "Oh, well, I want to see what this is. I want, to, I need to jump on this and I need to figure out what this is. If I can meet." And then, lo and behold, she's seeing her mother every day. Like, you can't make this up.
You can't, you know I is and if you have kids, how you get to know the people at your child's school
Hmm.
by default. Drop off, pick up,
Hmm.
if there are any issues, if they make friends in the class. Like, I remember when my daughter was in kindergarten, like we hang out with the other, like, so you grow this relationship with these people because your child is there every day. And
Hmm.
so to call the school to let her know what's going on, obviously you have a deep enough connection with her that you want her to know what's going on in your life, right? Us as adoptees, we like when other people are there to support us, especially in the happy times, because a lot of the sad times and bad times, we honestly pretty much go through those alone. We little G's. We like, look, I'm gonna just fight this battle in silence a little bit. I'll be all right, But if you want somebody to know what's going on in your life and for them to be happy for you, you know who to call. You know who's gonna be happy for you. And for
Hmm.
her to call her actual mother and for her mother to say, yes, it's real, it's me, they called me, and now those conversations are gonna now be probably she gonna be over her mom's house every day. Okay, take the kids with you. I'll be sure after I get over.
What you mean you are mom? But like, mind you, I've been going to this daycare. Well, my kids been going to the daycare for the last what 5, 6 years. God bless her dad. Her nephew passed away like a couple of years ago. We went to sit with the family and everything because I'm cool with the daycare people. I when things like that happen, I show my face and everything. I'm sitting amongst the family and everything. Like hanging out, sitting in the living room, talking, chit chatting with everybody. So this is crazy. So I do ask her, did you know all along? And she's like, no. She was like, they called me. They just got off the phone with me. Of course. They call her or whatever to talk to her. And I said, I'm still in shock. I said, well, let me know. I said, let me know what they said on the phone. I said, what they said. And she said, did you send them that picture yet? You remember when the lady said she asked for a picture? So I was like, what? You got to be kidding me right now. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, what? I don't know if it's coincidence because I really believe in God with my whole heart. But
That is crazy. What are the
And then it's I always say God deals in truth, right?
Mhm.
And her adoptive parents passed away, but what are the odds of her being around her mother every day and not even knowing it? Like sometimes it's like you have like this angel around you and you don't even know it.
That's a one in how many ever people on the planet? Like,
I look, we hear I won't say it's very very common, but what about the guy whose biological mom was the bakery owner? There was another guy who was he was on the street, and the guy kept help. There's a guy that kept helping him. Turned out to be related to him. He didn't even know. I've seen some stories where they are in contact and communication and relationship with people that are directly related to them. Most times it's the mom. It's crazy, but it definitely does happen. I just want to shout out some people in the chat here. Hey Kristen, good to see you. Oh my God, it's profound what your co-host said about imagine the impact of hearing the news from someone else. Wow. Yes, and that's why I always tell, I always encourage, because I don't want to tell anyone to do anything. I ain't nobody's mama but my child's, okay? But I always encourage adoptive parents to tell your adoptees young, tell them early, tell them often, because they will learn. You'll be able to grow in the adoption together instead of them growing up and you know this huge, fact about their life, and then you hit them with it at 30 years old, 32 years old, 33 years old, even 13 years old or 16 years old. Like I even think that at those times where they're learning themselves, they're learning their body, they're learning the people around them, they're creating new relationships. I still even think that's too late. I think that if you have a baby, you adopt a baby, you should be telling them young. And I know it sounds easier said than done, but that's why I always encourage to speak with a child psychologist. Get with the child psychologist so you know the verbiage, so you know the tone, so you know to get down with, to their level. You'll know how to, you need to, just because you have kids don't mean you know how to deal with kids. A lot of my educational background is in education. And so just because you have them don't mean you know how to deal with them or connect with them or how to psychologically get on their level so they understand you and they're not just listening to you and words going in one ear and out the other. There's tones you have to use. There's eye contact. There, it's all of that safe
mhm.
touches. When you're telling a child something and you want them to listen to you, but you're being firm with them and you're trying to get them to listen, you want to hold their hand or you want to rub their back. There has to be some way that you're connecting with that child while communicating with them at the same time. That part of accepting that you may not get the answers that you are looking for is profound and so real. Yes, because there's going to be pieces of the puzzle that are going to be missing, and that's unfortunate for adoptees. Always on a journey until they find the answers they are looking for. D Man Entertainment also said, I believe individuals who are adopted view, see, and live the world differently. And boy, do we. It is.
Say that again. Amen.
And again and again and again. Okay. World class, what's up? What's up? Good evening. So I believe that was pretty much the end. Actually, the lady on the left, it's so like these social media streets are the lady on the left is actually in a polygamous relationship, and I interviewed her sister wife years ago. So when I came up on, I never got to interview her though. So when I came up on the video, I was like, oh, I know who that is. But it was a real video that she did. But I interviewed her sister wife years ago. They were like a huge polygamous Black couple at that time a few years ago. But I wanted to go over that story because, again, like I said, I can't get enough of listening to adoptee stories because they are so profound, also individualized, and but all still so familiar. And so, you know, we're always going to react to those type of videos because we're like, what in the world? All right, no, it ain't. All right, so now we're going to get into a video, into the topic, another baby, another adoption, what should be done. I came across this video and I saw it and said, you know what? I am the oldest of 7. This definitely does apply. And it definitely makes me, think about, what could have been the alternatives? What could have been some resources or conversations that could have taken place instead of adoption after adoption. So we're going to get into this video. You guys engage in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. And we're going to get into it.
Foster care and adoption that I
All right, StreamYard. That's why we're leaving it.
talk about very much is when the birth mother continues to have more kids after her kids enter foster care and get adopted. And I think this happens more often than we realize. My son is currently 7.5 years old, and he was our first placement when we first became foster parents. And since we took him in, he has had 2 biological sisters who were born, both of whom are now placed here. One of whom is adopted, the other we're still fostering, because that's a long process. But my kid's birth mother is expecting again. Obviously, it's a very personal decision that we need to make if we are willing to be a placement option for this child if they end up entering foster care and needing a resource. It's a tricky road for me to navigate because I hear stories from people that say things like, oh, my biological mom ended up having 10 kids. I was one of 10, and we all got separated and adopted into different homes. And that is truly a heartbreaking reality to think about. I very much support connections, family connections, biological connections, sibling connections. And I think it's so important for adoptive children to have a connection to their biological family and know where they came from and to stay with their sibling whenever possible. So I guess what I'm asking is I'm wondering if there are other people out there who have navigated a similar road in taking in the siblings of the children you've adopted and knowing what the right answer is. And I know that's an impossible question to answer. Like,
Girl, yes. Come on now.
I obviously want my kids to have a connection with their biological siblings and any other future biological siblings that may come to be. But at the same time, I know that I'm only capable of so much. And when I became a foster mom, I didn't even think or consider that this is something that I would have to navigate. I don't know why I never thought about that. The thing about foster care and adoption
Well, it just repeats. All right. So like she said, she summed it up in that one line. This is impossible. However, I think that it is a conversation that deserves a grand stage. It deserves a lot of attention because this happens a lot in the adoption arena, foster care arena. It definitely happens a lot when a mother is abusing substances. That was the case that I was in. My mom was addicted to drugs, and she, you know, continued to have babies. And one of the things when you're addicted to drugs is you don't even know when you're pregnant. And so that's one thing. Another thing is when the mother has the baby and the baby has drugs in their system, that's almost an automatic, we're going to take your children away from you. And so, it's that's an area where you will see that a lot. However, even those who are not addicted to drugs, they may, maybe, I don't know, suffer from depression, or they are promiscuous and they just continuously have children. It doesn't necessarily have to be you strung out, and you got all these kids. It could just be you're being irresponsible and now you have all these kids and you don't have the resources, you don't have the life skills to take care of the children, and so they get placed in foster care and then possibly later on adopted. So after hearing what she said, Leon, like, what do you think about that? A woman, a biological mother, having so many kids that they have to, be adopted out every single time.
I mean, it's tough, like, because you don't know. Um, I wouldn't say that she shouldn't be allowed to have more kids, but she shouldn't be allowed to have 10. You know, if you can't, if you can't take care of the first one, how are you gonna take care of two, three, four, five, six? I don't know. Like, um, that's another issue we face. In adoption. It's like, what are you gonna do? Or what are we gonna do? The China thing? You're not allowed to have more than two kids. You
I
know.
mean, no, I'm just kidding. And watch those kids get adopted out. People
Hmm.
are paying to take children,
That's
get
a whole nother.
but no, I mean, we live in a time where, my body, my choice. You can't really tell me, you're going against
Hmm.
people's rights and laws. And, you can't really tell people not to have kids. You can't really force contraceptions on to mothers who continuously have kids. Um, and so it leaves us in a place where, the adoption agency seems like the only choice. Foster care seems like the only choice, especially if you don't have family or you don't have um, people around you, a support system, a village around you to support
Hmm.
you. I mean, let's be real. Most of us weren't planned. Okay. I think that I was a whole uh vacation baby or something. I don't know. My mom went away. She had me in a whole nother state. Like, well, she didn't have me, but she conceived me in a whole nother state. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And so my dad didn't even know that I existed. And so you have people who are not planned. And so asking a family member who's not necessarily planning on having children to take in your unplanned children is a large, task as well. And as
Hmm.
much as we would like to keep children in the family, sometimes that's just not always the easiest choice. It's not always the available choice, I should say. We had Harmony on the show and she was in a kinship adoption, and there were a lot of things that happened in her kinship adoption where you would have thought that she was adopted outside the family, but she was adopted right inside of the family. And so, we come into these situations where we know that CPS gives money to the state to keep children in foster care and not reunite them with their parents. And so
Hmm.
that makes me think, well, if you can give the money to the state, why aren't resources, and I'm not saying that they're not going to mothers, because we're going to break that down too, but why isn't there a bigger push on truly supporting mothers who have multiple children? Because, like the woman said in the video, she adopted two, adopted three, is foster no, she adopted two, she's fostering one, and there's another one um,
Hmm.
that's, up for adoption, that's nominated for adoption. And so she, like she said, she never thought that she thought, look, give me my one or two and I'm good. I know in my adoption, my parents told us years later that the adoption agency had called them to see if they wanted to adopt my brother, um, Ronald. And like I said, they told us years later. Now, of course, if they would have told us years before, we would have been like, yeah, that's our brother, right?
Like,
However,
what are you doing?
again, we don't have any say. And
Hmm.
as a parent, I do know that there are costs that come with, being a parent. However, because they couldn't do it, his life is now different, and he lived with a white family and grew up with like 17, 18 brothers and sisters. But I always think back, like, well, what if he would have grew up with his biological brother and sister,
Hmm.
so it is one of those situations where I do believe that adoption agencies try to keep siblings together. They attempt it. However, again, it's not always the available option. It's not always the option that's the go-to,
Hmm.
because they are family.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe that in my life book, and we talked about this before, if you guys know what a life book is, it's a book that adoptees get, most adoptees, I won't say every adoptee, but we get them when we get adopted, and it kind of tells us, some facts about our life, not actual facts. You won't get no dates or no no last names and things of that nature, but it does give you some facts. And I do remember reading in there that the court system did try to, or they did give my mom a homemaker. And I'm assuming a homemaker is someone who comes in, they help you with your child, they help you try to probably get a job and get yourself situated. And, in the book, it said it just didn't work. And so, it's a catch 22, because there are resources out there for mothers. There are resources out there for mothers who have children, have multiple children. I think that sometimes their circumstances and their support system, sometimes people discard the people that are not walking the straight and narrow, or who are not,
Hmm.
doing what everyone else is doing by going to college and getting their degrees. Like, you know what I mean? And just doing it the way that society wants you to do everything. Sometimes those people get discarded and they get caught up in life. However, it's people don't know how to extend the helping hand. You know what I mean? People don't know how to um, be there for someone and have a good balance of being there for someone. And so I think that, with there are resources, but I still feel as though they would rather have children in foster care and then later on adopted than truly keep them with their
Hmm.
biological parents, because they'll find any reason to, take your children from you. They really will.
Hmm.
I mean, we've showed videos of them just taking babies out of mothers' arms, and they literally just gave birth to them in the hospital. What type of recourse do you have in that type of situation? So now, do you think that the systems should do something a little bit different to intervene when mothers have multiple children?
Yeah. I mean, I think, especially if they can sense like that they have some kind of addiction or some kind of mental problems, I think they especially if you could just keep having kid after kid after kid, and then 5 out of the 8 of them in foster care. Like, why are we having kids? Like, what? We need to figure out, what's wrong. What's going on. Why are you having so many children and you can't even take care of the ones that you gave birth to?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that is a problem. You know what I mean? It becomes a problem on so many different levels, right? Because I'm the oldest of 7. There's a 20-year age gap between me and the youngest.
Mhm.
And so I talked about this before on how he is going, the youngest is going, kind of through his adoption trauma. And I'm so far removed from that trauma. And it's like, well, if she would have stopped at maybe number 3, or, like that could have been avoided. And I don't
Mhm.
want to say that none of my, siblings is a mistake, but at the same time, coming back and trying to have those relationships, especially because my biological mother is no longer here. It you circle the wagon on a lot of those emotion,
Mhm.
and you're going through it with them, and there are, again, answers that you don't have that they need. I think that maybe some laws do need to be passed for people who have multiple children in the system. Maybe
Because what's the
there's some laws
purpose?
to be passed if you are someone who is a substance abuse. If you're suffering from substance abuse and you have multiple children, maybe it should be mandatory that you that you get on some type of
Mhm.
birth. I don't think that adoption is always the answer. Again, adoption doesn't give you a better life, it gives you a different one. Now, that different one may be a better life, but it doesn't guarantee it to be a better life. And so now you have children who have siblings who are now broken up and they're fractured, and there is no visitation. There is no, let's go see your brother or sister. There is no connection with that, especially if you're in a closed adoption. It brings on problems with children in different regions of the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you over in Maryland having issues, I'm over in Jersey having issues, you over in North Carolina having issues, like,
Mhm.
and we all come from the same family tree. And at one point didn't even know,
Mhm.
and then it's like, that whole closed adoption conversation on TikTok, like, why would you go look for them if they didn't want you? They put you up for adoption because blah, 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 blah. Well, child,
Or is they doing that on TikTok?
how you going to tell me not to look? And my life is scattered all over the world. Excuse me, y'all. I'm so sorry. Everything is, you're telling me not to look, but you're also not giving me any answers. Make it make sense. Like, what am I supposed to do? It's almost
Yeah,
like
because
just
I seen a video on Instagram where people putting in the comments like, "What? Well, don't you have, you have a good life already, or why would you want to look for them, or why would you want to take yourself through that trauma?" I was
it's
just
like,
reading all the comments.
it's like, why would you want to wear your right shoe with your left? Like, just go together. They go together. Like, they go together.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
it, I don't, I see. Sometimes I don't even know how to explain it because I'm in it, and if you're not in it, then it's hard to, explain to you, because you're always gonna look at us like, but still, why would you want to, it's like it's a free will thing, and we're connected. Why wouldn't we? Even if it, and a lot of times, a lot of adoptees are not looking to um be reparented or anything in any way, because that's already happened for us. So, a lot of those comments are ignorant. But again, it's like, you don't want us to go look for answers, but yet you won't give us any answers. It's just crazy.
It's like, why would you go buy a $1,800 purse? Like,
Oh, you ain't never got to worry about me doing that crazy mess. Raimi says, my daughter-in-law has 11 siblings and all but one was born addicted. I think one or
wow.
newborn addicted is enough of a reason to involuntarily sterilize. Yeah, you know, it again, because of the money that states are given, they're just looking at these women as baby making machines. They're looking at them as dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign every single time you have one. And the sad part about it is the biological mom is left with um no recourse, no assistance, even after having their last child. Okay. There's never any recourse. And I think just because it didn't work before doesn't mean I don't know. I don't think that you should give up on mothers who are, you know, producing children. I just don't. Now, should there be boundaries? Yes. Should there be, you know, stipulations? Yes. And like I said, there are child, but I don't think that enough goes towards the biological, and not even just the biological mom. What about the biological family? What if there are people who just don't have the resources but are available to, you know, look after their relatives? Maybe they need the resources, you know? It should be extended to them, but that's just not always the focus at all. And I don't want to say the children suffer, but at some point, a child will suffer because of it. At some point.
Yeah, because you're taking a big risk by, um, if you're on some kind of addiction, you're taking a very big risk by having a baby. And I'm not saying that, baby will have issues, but it's a very big risk. Like, um, I think my mother was on and off drugs. So, like, you know, I was a premature baby. Um, and so those are risks that people take when they, are on those substances and they're not really thinking about, you know, the well being, they're just being selfish, you
Yeah.
know.
And then you think of those who foster and adopt, and it's like, it's just crazy because it's like, do I keep taking, you know, these kids? And it's almost like you feel like you're in the same seat as the biological mom. Like I feel guilty for like, you know, not being able to care for these children. And
Hmm.
it's definitely a large supply of children, and I think that the foster care system and adopt adoption agencies definitely is just where they all go to. It's almost like was that Pinocchio where all the kids went to? Was that Pinocchio? Where they went to like this Neverland or something like that. Wasn't that Pinocchio? Y'all help me. I don't know. My childhood memories are failing me right now. But it's like we're all shipped off a certain place in the world and just dispersed. And we're, uh,
Hmm.
get in your car and you go and you go to that house and you're with that family and that's that. But when you have siblings all around the world, it's hard to even conceptualize that you have siblings when you find out. Like I have a sister, she didn't even know that she was adopted. Like it like was like, what? You know, and meeting us, it probably was very overwhelming for her. It probably was, a shock. Like the girl said that met her mom, she was like, I was still in shock. You know, it's a shock because it's like, what do you mean I have other family, other places, and sisters and brother? Like, what? Especially when you know one life, your whole life. Yes, the island with the bad kids is from Pinocchio. I knew it was something. And sometimes the adoptees are, we're looked at as the bad seeds, right? So, as a stereotype. I remember somebody was like, "You don't look adopted," and I was like, "Well, what that look like? What does that look like? Am I supposed to be run down, looking crazy, tired?" All right, so I don't I think we've covered a lot of the stuff that I have here. But to close this video, I think that foster parents do and adoptive parents do hold this. They're looked at as you're supposed to take all of the siblings. You're supposed to, or can you, not you're supposed to, but they're always asked if they can. And when they can't, I believe that they feel some type of guilt. I think that that also puts more shame on the biological mom, because it's like, you keep having kids, it's just another thing that you're looking at them in a negative light on. But something definitely needs to change in that aspect of adoption and foster care. And I think, like you said, it should start with, we're going to have to cut it off. We're going to have to cut you off. Like, we're going to have to, what do you need? What type of birth control? Like, what is it? Because I don't think it's fair to the siblings, honestly. I don't think it's fair to the ones that come after, who none of us had a say in it. But I definitely think that there should be something in place for, especially, it's hard though, because you can't police people in that way. You really can't police people in that way. So what do you really do?
My body, my choice.
It's one of those things where it's like, how can you really tell people not to have children?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's definitely a hard, like she said, it's almost like an impossible question. I think that if parents are going to have children, the best thing you could do is keep your children with you and find the resources and fight through whatever the issues that you have, because parenting is not easy. It's not meant to be an easy thing. And to me, that will always be the first choice, is for you to keep your children,
Mm-hmm.
and build your village. I think that so many mothers who have children out of wedlock, so many mothers who, like the daughter in the first video was saying how her biological mom was, caught up in the wrong crowds, and then she turned her life around and she became a pastor. She obviously saw that the road that she was going down was not a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, again, I don't think that mothers need to be discarded. I think that they need to be actually guarded with all costs, because a child is, and it is in the situation. And so, I think that as a community, we probably can do a better job. Family members can do a better job at helping our family members out that need the help. Is it
Mm-hmm.
our responsibility? No, not necessarily. But at the same time, knowing what adoption is, knowing what we have gone through emotionally, mentally, gone through adoption, it is just not a sometimes always the best option,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have people who can help you out. But if you can't, that's where you feel like you're out of options, but you're not. You have resources. And that's where we probably can have somebody on, to go over those resources, as far as like a breakdown of, what do you do after you find out that you're pregnant? What should you be doing, before you have your baby? If you are needing housing, what should you be doing? What is the process and what does that look like? I think that a lot of mothers just don't know, especially if you're in the wrong crowds. You're not going to know the information that you need to know to actually be on the straight and narrow. You're just not going to know it. And a lot of mothers get discouraged and they don't go after what they need to go after for their children.
And it's a lot of people that's just lazy and they don't want to do the research.
Right.
Like, um, if you know, and this goes for anything, right? It's just not about being pregnant. It's about when you like when I said, when I was younger, I took a I took a trade class in summer school to see if I would like it, you know, and if I didn't, I wouldn't have wasted 2 years, in something that I didn't like, And so I think people just need to be more mindful, or and try to figure out the best way for them, and not just act like they don't have a way out.
I agree. I agree. Because honestly, you really can't. I always say I don't help people who don't help themselves. You have to be helping yourself and advocating for yourself, because if you don't advocate for yourself, you can't expect others to. You just can't.
Hmm.
And so that's the biggest thing as well. And I think that a lot of those who are adoptees came from stories of mothers who were teenagers, mothers who were in bad situations. And then when you're young like that, you're not thinking responsibly. You're not, especially if you didn't have, like, I know that my biological grandmother didn't really raise my biological mom. So my mom didn't get raised by her mom, and in turn
Hmm.
she didn't raise us. Like, you know what I mean? It's a cycle. And a lot of times as adoptees, a lot of us are the cycle breakers because we see the damage it's done.
Hmm.
So I believe in, yes, be an advocate for yourself, but also have people that are going to support you, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of young mothers just don't have the support, and that is no matter what information they have, no matter what you know energy they have to do this for themselves and their child. That support is huge. And when I say support, you may need a ride.
Hmm.
You may need to get paperwork. You may need to file this with this court, file that with that. Like, that's the support, the hands on the ground type of support. And that's not support that you're necessarily given.
And we know court costs that take money.
Yeah. Yeah. And not even court costs, just things that you need, even just for your child's, documents, being
Hmm.
able to sign up for all of the resources that your county or your state has for you. And actually, those people who work at those places being able to help you. A lot of times you go to the family services building or somewhere and they have attitudes. They don't want to help you. They act like they don't want to do their job. And it's like,
Hmm.
I,
You're just
I
trying to get some help. Trying.
right.
You're not there for the attitude, right? Like you're just trying. It's like when you go to the DMV sometime, and
Exactly.
they be like, well, I told you to sit over there." Like, okay, lady, I'm just coming to get my driver's license or my tags. Like,
Right. Like, you just sit in your little rolly chair and help me. Thank you. So yeah, sometimes, those things can be, they can they can deter someone who is trying to do the right thing.
hmm.
Sometimes it takes just one little thing to trigger someone, but having that patience and having, that understanding for them is sometimes all that they need, that will get them through.
Hmm.
But we know situations are all different, and so we can't put a blanket over everything. However, those who are having babies need to advocate for themselves and getting the resources that they need to progress. And those who are on the other end, as far as foster care and adoption, I would say definitely try to have some type of connection with the siblings if you can, some type of connection, some type of way. No, I can't adopt him. I don't have the space. I don't have the extra funds. However, I would like him to be in contact with his brother and or sister. Is there any way you can give me any information once he's placed? I think that that's important too, because I always say your siblings are like your first best friends, and if you don't have access to them, and then you find out you have them later on, it's like, that we could have been building this relationship for so long, but because we didn't know about each other, we couldn't.
Yeah, just don't place them, and then don't know where they are. Don't know how to get in contact with them, or
Yeah.
something to have some kind of system. But some people don't think about that. They just, oh, I don't. As one less kid I have to worry about. Now I can take care of what I need, and not really worrying about the well being of that connection, like you said.
Yeah, because I wonder if, when my parents were asked to adopt our brother, if the adoption agency ever told them where he was placed for us to be in contact with one another. But I doubt it, since, they're closed adoptions. And that's the damaging part of closed adoptions, because
Hmm.
with closed adoptions, you're not supposed to have any contact with your biological family. And I think that's another thing that should change as well. It's like, I can understand if probably not the mother and father at some point, because I think that, well, in most states, you after 18 you can, find them. But um with siblings, I don't know. I think that should change. There should always be a open line or some type of way to communicate with siblings. I
Yeah,
think.
at least like I don't know, at least like a couple times a year or
Yeah,
something where like a birthday, something where you guys can, or a sibling day. You don't even have to be your birthday. It could just be, these are the times of years that we get together. And I don't know. Yeah, it's so much that need to change. Like, um, I can see in a way why closed adoptions were generated, because some people were actually trying to go get their kids back. I could see that. Like, that's valid. Like, if they think that you're going to try to go find them or try to mess up, you know, that security blanket that has been created.
Right.
Um,
Or if it's
but
just an unsafe situation, like,
right, exactly. But like, if if they detect, or they have that feeling like it's not unsafe, and it's a good, you know, they just needed to give up a kid, for whatever reason. I don't see why the closed adoption thing should exist in that scenario.
yeah, yeah. I think there should only be a few scenarios where you should have a closed
Hmm.
adoption. Good evening, Taysom one. I hope I'm saying that right. Some people think that adopted kids aren't loved the same as biological kids. That's not true. I would give my life for my son. We adopted him 20 years ago. Um, I don't know. I don't necessarily say that adopted kids aren't loved the same as biological kids. I think I would go with what Gabor Mate says, and how, your every child that you have is going to experience you differently.
Hmm.
And so, that I think a lot of I think us as parents, we're like, I love all my kids the same, when in reality all your kids are experiencing you very differently than the other kid, right? You can grow up in the same house as your brother, sister, brother and sister, or whatever the case, and
Hmm.
all have different experiences in that one house. I think our parents, love us, but I don't know if the love is ever the same, because even you as the parent experiences one child differently than the other, and vice versa. The child experiences you as the parent. Um,
Yeah,
but
because you gotta approach, because like each kid is not gonna have the same mannerisms. They're not gonna have the same like
temperament,
triggers. Yeah, so like where you know my mother, she knew how to handle me more with care, and my father, he was more like of a stricter person. So like he would do the discipline, right? Like so, um, and when you hear that voice or you see that look, you need to,
right?
you need to bring it back to some decent order, right? So I think when you have parents that are knowledgeable about how to actually parent children and what they need, and not, and not in their own selfish ways, but like emotionally, nurturing, because you learn as you grow, you learn different things from your parents, in different stages of your life, and so I think, yeah, you don't. I don't believe you experience your parents the same way.
No, no. But I'm glad that he was able to experience love,
Hmm.
over 20 years, because a lot of adoptees, they experience it, but a lot of adoptees suffer in silence. And again, that's why we have this type of forum, because a lot of adoptees will say, oh, I loved watching your show, it gave me courage, or now I'm able to speak about it and things of that nature, because it's a lot of things that we just hold so close to the chest that you wouldn't even know that we're carrying it. We don't make it known.
Hmm.
And so having love and support is very, very important. All right. I wanted to play this last video because this is actually a biological mother, and she talks about her regrets.
One of the toughest regrets that I have as a birth mother is looking back and recognizing that the parenting that my child received, the way that they were brought up, the morals and values that were instilled in them, I could have done better. I didn't know that at 17. I didn't know when my parents were telling me that they were going to throw me out of their house if I decided to parent my child. I didn't know that other people would have helped me, that just because my immediate family was awful and more concerned about their comfort than my safety or the safety of my child, I didn't know that there were people out there who would have helped me. And had I had just an ounce of help, we both would have been in a very different place. And I think that's the toughest part, right? Is recognizing now I get to reparent, and I am very grateful for that opportunity. But my child deserved better, and I did too.
So again, a lot of times, she got to reparent. And I don't know how many kids she has now, but a lot of times these parents are young, and what, 70s, 80s, you talking about the crack era. They grew up in a time where party, sex, fun, they weren't, I'm serious, like they just weren't. And I'm not making any excuses. I'm not making excuses at all. But what I'm saying is there are, girls out here that aren't necessarily party fun, but they find themselves in a situation where they're pregnant and they don't know what their options are, and they don't know,
Hmm.
that there are people there to help them. They think of, and a lot of women, when they get pregnant, it's so overwhelming because they're like, okay, how am I going to do this? The reality really sets in. And that's why you see so many women, hurting their children. You see them going through postpartum depression. It's so many things that happen, one, for lack of support, lack of knowledge, and not really knowing that there's assistance.
Yeah, because like she probably felt like her parents. When you look to your parents for guidance, like you don't expect them to be like, no, we ain't gonna, this ain't, you know, we didn't raise you to be this way, and you basically have to figure it out on your own. That's basically what they were telling her.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's
and
overwhelming.
huh,
I said that's overwhelming as a mother.
hmm and she, I don't know what the reparent, like she must have had more
She had more
kids, or
kids.
oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, that's it's unfortunate that she didn't have, her parents. Even if her parents didn't want to help her, they could have at least been like, okay, look, we're not going, we're not going to do this, this, and this, but here are some resources you can go to. Here's what you can do to, but basically, they like, you decided to be an adult. You got to do it the adult way. You got to figure it out on your own.
Yeah. Which is, I can understand, I can understand why parents do that, but that's, to me, that's not healthy.
Mm-mm.
It's not healthy to have your child figure it out on their own, even if they did make a decision that was unfavorable in your eyes. Um,
Hmm.
because when you tell them to go figure it out on their own, things can get worse. You know, everybody don't have a good bounce back. Everybody doesn't have, you know, a firm foundation of who they are and determination and things of that nature. You tell somebody to go figure out on their own, child, they might be on the street. Seriously, I'm just being
Hmm.
serious. People just don't have that, you know, and parents know their kids. And so, you know, I think that some parents are just like, oh well, you know, you strong enough and big and bad enough to do it on your own, go do it on your own, right? It's almost like let me see you do it, instead of, you know, I'm your parent, no matter what, I'm going to support you. I'm not going to enable you, but I am going to support you. And I think again that there's just no support, you know, there. And I don't want to say that there's no support, but it's not a just like a one day support type of thing. You know, this is support that's going to, it's a process of support. And some people just don't have the patience for that. They don't have it. And when they don't have that, it's unfortunate because kids suffer and even grown adults suffer. So, you know, I think that instead of, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any foster care agencies, there shouldn't be any adoption agencies. However, there should be a little bit more, um, there should be a little bit more of a public resource for these mothers. And I'm not saying that
Hmm.
there isn't, but you know, you got pictures of kids who need to be adopted on adoption agencies, but you don't make it easy for mothers to receive the assistance that they need when they have kids, get the housing that they need when they have kids. I mean, these places are probably booked out the wazoo anyway.
Hmm.
But again, mothers need to learn how to advocate for themselves and their kids instead of giving their kids up and that being the easy option. It's easy to just give your kids up. It's easy to have your kids somewhere else living, you know, with family members or strangers. It's easy to
Hmm.
do that. But when you become an advocate for yourself, it's easier for you to be an advocate for your child. And I think that, you know, mothers are in vulnerable situations after they have children. I mean, you have a womb that is trying to heal, for God's sake. You know, like, come on. So I wanted to play that because, you know, another baby, another adoption. What should we do? It's, you know, we need to be able to support those who need it. I don't think that we should enable any type of behavior. So again, we can't police bodies, but at the same time, if you know that a mother has come in and has had at least two babies and struggles with substance abuse, there should be something written in her medical file that there should be some type of mandatory, you know, um, birth control. However, on the other hand, the more kids that are given to the state, the more money the state gets, you know. And so if you want to eliminate that, then put the money elsewhere and help the local resources that there are for mothers who need these resources.
Hmm.
You know, it's almost like you can't win for losing, but then again, you can't really tell people what to do, so you hope people are responsible. However, you know, there are the children going into the foster care system every day. There are children being adopted every day. And so, will biological mothers who have multiple children who have been adopted stop having kids? I I don't know.
Probably not.
I mean, it's 2026. I don't think that many people are having as many kids as they did back in, you know, 1960s. I just don't see it. You know, the numbers being the same. They are slowing up. However, I'm sure that there are children in there who are part of the foster care and adopted community that still need these resources and still are being stripped away from their parents because they're in vulnerable states. They are. All right. Well, that we're down to the end of the show tonight. That's all I got for this evening. We will be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. on the men's forum. We haven't had that show in the last what 2 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 weeks?
I'm actually going to be on Agree to Disagree's podcast tomorrow. So I'm
Okay.
doing an interview.
Nice.
Yeah, so they wanted to interview me. So come check me out there if you guys want to check out the interview.
You got a
Um,
link? You got a link?
it's at 7 o'clock. Yeah, I got a link actually. Do I put that in the back chat or
No, in the main chat. You want the
okay?
people to come find you, child. You got to put it in the main chat.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I gotta pull up Discord.
But yeah, so tomorrow we will be live on the men's panel. I want to talk about this ticket situation a little bit more because I just feel like there's more coming out on the situation with his ex-wife. I believe it's his ex-wife, and children are involved in that as well. But I want to get into that and a few other videos that I came across, and get the men's perspective. Again, it's been about I think it's been 2 weeks. I don't think it's been 3 weeks. I think it's been 2 weeks since we've been on the men's panel, but we're going to be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern. So definitely join us. Hopefully we don't have a long show because I have a flight to catch the next day. Drop the link if I'm busy. I'll still come out even if to listen in.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to grab it. I'm trying to grab it.
Drop that link. But yeah, we definitely want to support. You said at 7 p.m. Eastern, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll definitely support. I'll drop in. I probably will be just getting out the salon chair, getting my nails done and my feet. So yeah.
All right, I just dropped a link.
All right, guys. On vacation. I'm actually going to go see my biological father for the second time. That's
All right.
I'll be going. I think I shared it, but I didn't share it today yet. But yeah, I'll be going to go see my biological father for the first time, for the second time. And it's actually going to be a family reunion. So I'm not just going to see him, I'm going to see other family. And so again, this adoption journey never ends for us. We are always discovering, we're always meeting new people, we're always just, like I said, it takes courage. It takes courage to get on a plane and go see someone that was once a stranger, and now I speak to him every single day. He's my voice of reason. He's who I go to for advice. I can tell him anything and I'm safe there. I'm safe in his arms, and I love that. And so I'm so excited to go see him. And to meet new family members and be like, hey, cuz, who are you? But I don't know, the weather's going to be kind of bad there. So hopefully, we have some sunshine. I know the heat is going to be hot. I know it's going to be hot.
Yeah, it's hurricane season down there, so it's probably gonna be just raining. When I used to live there, um, every day, like clockwork, it rained like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So just be prepared for the rain. Hopefully, you'll get some break in the rain. You guys will be able to get out and do things and have some good fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll have lots of stories when you come back.
I hope so. I mean, I'm pretty chill. My dad's pretty chill too. So, I don't have to be doing much, but just to be around him and meeting family. And actually him and my cousin that when I was on Ancestry and she got on Ancestry and I gave her the whole rundown and she was like, oh, he lived down the street from me. They're both coming to the airport to pick me up. So I'm excited.
That's great.
So that's actually gonna be my weekend. So tomorrow is my Friday, and so like I said, we'll be here at 9 p.m. Eastern with the men, and then we'll be back next Tuesday for the Adoptee Foster show. So guys, I do post the clips of the show, just short form clips on YouTube, on Instagram, on all my Instagram platforms. So definitely support the platform. as the lives do get cut up into short clips just for you guys' recap throughout the week. And you're going through social media and you're scrolling, get a little dose of the Adoptee Foster show on there. Thank you so much, Elnix. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Now, I hope you guys were able to get this link. Leon, if you don't mind, can you just text the link to me? Because I don't think that I could actually click on the link, but those who are watching probably can. And then I told you I got a new phone, child. I got to sign into YouTube on the new phone so I can even engage in the chat. Okay. Yeah, these last couple of weeks have been, busy, eventful, but we're here. We made it, and we're looking forward to. We're almost at the middle of the week, Wednesday. And then we'll be at the end. So you guys definitely enjoy your weekend. I'll see you tomorrow. Those who are joining the men's panel, Leon, I hope you have a great interview. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be live, right?
Yes.
So, I definitely want to engage in the chat.
I put it in the back chat.
Got it. I see it. Thank you. Definitely going to be engaged in the chat. You guys definitely share the link as well. Those who are part of the adoptee community, those that we have met, interviewed, had on the platform, definitely show your love, show your support. That's what we're here for, to support one another. I mean, we like siblings now. I mean, cousins. I don't know what you want to call it, but we family. So definitely show your support towards Leon. There are going to be definitely things coming up in the future for you guys to support on behalf of us and vice versa. So I'm looking forward to that. But on that note, Elnix, you have a blessed week too. Be safe and see you when you get back. Yes. On that, we are out of here. Thank you guys. We will see you the next time around. Have a good night.
Have a good one.